Greetings brothers, welcome to the weekly tactics video, and today we're doing something a little bit different. We're going to look at the last 7 games we've played on the live stream, all of which have been wins, and we're going to look at secondary choices for each of these games, what secondaries did well, what secondaries did poorly, why did I pick them, and then finally go into a little bit more about some secondaries that aren't included. So stick around, I really hope you enjoy. So today we're going to start by looking at the good Blood Angel secondaries that I think, and then we'll have the 7 battles that I talked about, all wins: the Custodes, the Sisters of the Battle, the Death Guard, the Iron Hands, the World Eaters, the Tyranids and the Eldar. We'll break down each of these games. I've got some screenshots to show you as well, and then finally we'll go over a bit of a summary and some of the secondaries that we didn't pick. So as you're aware, the battlefield gets created, terrain, objectives placed, and then arguably the secondaries are some of the most important decisions that you'll make in the game, because they're going to ultimately cost you the game before it's even started. So picking secondaries that you're going to get solid amounts of points from is something that I highly recommend. And I guess what I mean by this is don't pick greedy secondaries. If there's a secondary that you can think you can score a solid 10 plus points from, it's probably better than going for one where you might be able to score the full 15. So think long and hard about your secondaries, don't be too greedy, and I guess we're going to have some really good examples of me not being greedy throughout the 7 slides. Now, some of the secondaries that I think are great for Blood Angels are within Battlefield Supremacy. We have Engage on all fronts. That's very prominent. It's an easy one to score in that we have to be in close combat mostly across the battlefield, so usually we're in at least 3/4 of the board, usually good for around 10 points. Linebreaker and Relentless Assault combos up really well with our deep strike potential, so that's something that I would pick. Dependent on, is there space in the enemy deployment? Are they going to have many units left in the deployment after the start of the game? Do they need to move out and engage you? So Linebreaker and Relentless Assault always seem like something you should consider. For No Mercy, No Respite, we have Thin Their Ranks, which is great against like horde-based lists or lists with a lot of units. Oath of Moment is sort of my core pick within this. It's a solid Blood Angels one. Kill one character, monster, or vehicle each turn. So potentially you score 5 from that. Don't fall back or fail a leadership test each turn. Again, potentially you can score another 5 from that easy. And then have a unit within 6 inches of the middle, wholly within. You can do that a couple of times in the battlefield, and then you're at 14 points. So this Oath of Moment right now is probably like the top tier secondary out of all the ones that we have available. And then Death from Above does synergize really nicely with a deep striking list. So if that's something that you're running a lot of deep strikers, then you can consider Death from Above. Within Purge the Enemy, we obviously have Assassinate, and it's great against character heavy lists, but I guess you have to really think long and hard. Are you going to be able to get the characters? Are you going to be able to kill them easily? So something to consider. And Bring It Down is, again, it's good against vehicle based lists, but it's not as good as it was. So for Bring It Down, I'm not sure. A list has to have a lot of vehicles, like a lot now, for you to score more than 10 points. So sometimes Bring It Down could be a little bit more questionable than it was before. So think long and hard in that you only get 1 point now for vehicles from 10 to 19 wounds. So it's just that bit weaker than it was before. For Shadow Operations, we obviously have Raise the Banners. This one works well if you have a bunch of troop choices. My list doesn't have that many, so I don't pick it so often, but we do jump into it in one of the games that we're going to look at. We also have Scramblers, which is 1 action in your deployment zone, 1 action in the midfield, more than 6 inches away from each deployment zone, and 1 action in the enemy deployment zone, done by infantry. It can't be done by character Scramblers. But if you do all 3, you just get a flat 10 victory points, and it's kind of a low risk one. It's not the highest scoring, but sometimes you just need that low risk solid 10 points. So we would probably highly recommend Scramblers. And then Repair the Teleport Homer can synergize with Linebreaker, Relentless Assault. If you have a drop pod or you're having early deep striking, then Repair the Teleport Homer can definitely be good for 12 points. It's worth noting that you cannot score Repair the Teleport Homer in turn 5. And I think this is a bit of an oversight, right? But so to get maximum points, you actually need to have a drop pod. But is good for 12 points, and if the enemy is going to leave their deployment zone unguarded, then Repair the Teleport Homer can definitely be used effectively here. So it's worth saying that all the battles, and we're starting with this Custodes battle, are actually available on the channel. We do play a live battle every Monday night, and I think we have won 19 of the last 20 games. So Blood Angels generally win games on this channel, so if that's something you want to see, come hang out with us every Monday night, 7:30 UK time. However, against this game on Custodes, right, we're on the short edges of the battlefield, so the deployment zones are large, and the Custodes player has put everything on the front edge of his deployment zone, as you can see in this picture. So, thoughts on my secondaries for this game, and I've put how many points we scored in every secondary, and we've also put down green if we got more than 10 points, and orange if we did okay, and red if we did badly. And then at the bottom I've showed you my total, and this will be on every slide, for how many points out of the potential 45 we scored for secondary, and then the actual final score of the battle is down there as well. So when I thought about this game against the Custodes player, for one, I really thought like he wasn't going to have anything left in his deployment zone, and I didn't think he was going to have much in mind. I figured that he was going to try and push forward, meet me on the objectives. So Relentless Assault, seemed like a solid pick. I'd put one single unit, potentially a deep striking Vanguard veteran squad with 5 storm shields, into his deployment zone, and because of the lack of units that he has, he's either going to have to sacrifice, like a 200 point unit to go back and deal with it, because he's unlikely to take his Custodes infantry off that objective that they are holding, and I could essentially get some free points, I felt like, with Relentless Assault. So we did just that. We dropped down the Vanguard veterans in turn 2, and I guess they stayed there for 3 turns. I think they were joined later again by the Sanguinary Guard, because he did deep strike a dreadnought into my deployment zone. But 12 out of the 15 is not bad, considering, we can't score a Relentless Assault really in turn 1 with my list, because we don't have any drop pod. And I also decided to repair the Teleport Homer. So I figured that the Vanguard Veteran Squad wouldn't even try and engage the Custodes infantry that are on the objective, right? They have Storm Shields, they have a 3+ save, and they're toughness 5, with maybe like 5 wounds each. So I felt like the Vanguard Veterans going in to kill them, it's going to take a few turns. I felt like they were unlikely to actually even be able to shift them, which is not normally the case, right? Normally we send our Vanguard veterans in against the backfield and they have 26 attacks and they reroll all their wounds with their Red Thirst. They usually do a lot of damage. So I figured Vanguard veterans in this game were going to just repair the Teleport Homer within his deployment zone. What actually ended up happening was he actually sent his Bite Captain, which was the strongest character, back into the deployment zone to try and kill the Vanguard veterans. With the Storm Shields, they survived for like 3 turns. I think they may even survive to the end of the game. But it took his really nasty captain out of the game, really. Tied them up against a small squad of Vanguard veterans, and this is, I guess, why I prefer Vanguard veterans to the Death Company, because Death Company would have been dead for sure, but the 4+ save on the Vanguard veterans and the invulnerable Storm Shield save kept them alive. And then meanwhile, I guess I secured the middle of the map with my Blade Guard veterans, with the Redemptors, with the Centurions, and we got a good number of points from Oath of Moment. So all the picks in this one were decent. Repair the Teleport Homer could have gone better. Once he actually engaged the Vanguard veterans, obviously I wasn't able to repair the Teleport Homer again, but to me it actually felt okay, because it was either like he either has to sacrifice like a really expensive unit to go back into the corner of his deployment zone to deal with my small squad, or I score a lot of points. And I guess both is a win, in my opinion, for this game. So that's what we picked against the Custodes. So let's move straight on next to Sisters of Battle. And this Sisters of Battle list that we fought felt very strong. It's like 2 squads of Redemptia, 2 squads of the Multi-Meltas with 2 Cherubs in each, a bunch of Seraphim, some Seraphim as well, a lot of damage coming out for the Sisters list, but at the same time, not so much survivability. And when I first looked at the Sisters list, he had 5 characters, so straight away I was thinking Assassinate seems like a good option. You obviously had Celestine, and Celestine has that ability to come back to life if you do kill her. So I picked Assassinate, and in the chat of the night people were actually saying like, hey, Assassinate doesn't seem like a good choice here, but I mean, all those characters are toughness 3, so I figured if any of my units get into close combat with them, they're going to be wounding on 2s. We have a good number of weight of attacks, and I'm probably just going to ignore Celestine. Like, Celestine doesn't do a huge amount of damage. She buffs invulnerable saves and stuff like that, but she's not really that scary. So I thought, we'll ignore Celestine, we'll try and kill the rest. And I think one of the characters actually died at the very end of turn 5, but we did do what we wanted to do and kill those other 4 characters, and we took 12 points from Assassinate. Obviously, we talk a lot about engaging all fronts being a solid pick. The deployment against Sisters of Battle, as you can see here, was sort of like those board quarters. So it's very easy to move one unit into each quarter at the beginning of the game, and then continue to score points throughout, with the deep striker potential that we have as well. And I did deep strike my Vanguard veterans down again into his deployment zone, and again the Vanguard veterans in this game actually killed 2 squads of Sisters of Battle back in his deployment zone, maybe 1 full health squad and 1 half health squad, and that scored me the engage pretty solidly. Meanwhile, the Centurions and the Blade Guard veterans held the middle. The Centurion Flamers, I kept them well positioned, so basically I didn't want him to be able to make a charge on the Centurions from an obscuring position. So that was my goal with the Centurions, was to get them into the middle of the board and get it where he cannot charge them from an obscuring position, so that if they do charge, then we're going to do 66 auto hits with the Centurions. And we scored a good number of Oath of Moment points here. I actually was a little bit more cautious maybe than I could have been. Maybe there was 2 more points that we could score there, but again, a solid picking here actually. All 3 score above 10, 37 out of 45, and we won this game by 20 VP. So I was very happy with the game against the Sisters of Battle. Now up next is Death Guard, and Death Guard are quote-unquote tier 1, and they are winning tournaments at the moment. And I was a little bit afraid of this Death Guard list, in that it had like 2 Plague Burst Crawlers, a Demon Prince, Mortarion, I think maybe like 15 Possessed, maybe like 10 or 3 squads of Plague Marines. Obviously you can see the list if you go watch the video, but what I decided to do first was I was going to go for Relentless Assault, in that the Death Guard aren't super fast and we're on the long edges of the board, and he actually kind of castled with this list. Like you can see here, everything is in 1 quarter. So I thought, before that, obviously I didn't know that when I picked Relentless Assault, but I thought there's enough space in this deployment zone that I will manage to get a unit down. I'm not expecting too many of his units in my deployment zone, so that was the thought behind that. The Scramblers pick was me trying to be safe, right? You can see at the bottom of the table here, I have my Infiltrators already deployed in the middle of the board on that center objective. So I figured Infiltrators in turn 1 could deploy in one of these positions. They could do my Scramblers there, and then I only need to worry about Scramblers in my own deployment and enemy deployment zone. And if I'm going to be bringing down my Vanguard veterans in the enemy deployment zone, when you bring them down, you can do Scramblers straight away, and then at that point I just need 1 unit back in my own deployment zone and we're good to go. So Scramblers was a safe pick, and I guess I didn't want to be picking things where I had to kill too much Death Guard, because I want to pick and choose my engagements against the Death Guard. When we're close in, they're going to make me toughness 3. Everything is using plague weapons, and they're wounding on 2s, and they dish out a lot of damage, and they have a lot of attacks. So I didn't want to take too many things that required me to actually kill him. I wanted to get my points safely and then pick and choose my engagements on the battlefield. And finally we took Oath of Moment, and I was expecting to have to make a big play to hold the middle of the board, but as it turns out, in this list he was actually going for a line breaker maneuver down 1 flank. And this is why I didn't score well in Relentless Assault, because he actually had a ton of units in my deployment zone. I think it was 3. But I did hold the middle, and I held it for pretty much the whole game. And I did get a few points from Relentless Assault, and I actually had to move a couple of extra units in to his deployment zone to get some more Relentless Assault. So there wasn't there wasn't as many engagements as I thought that were going to be difficult. We actually ended the game with him only having Mortarion, and I think it was 3 Possessed left. And Mortarion was nearly on full health. I want to say he lost 3 wounds maximum. So we kind of played around Mortarion, right? We took out everything else that was dangerous, the Demon Prince, the Plague Burst Crawlers, his Psychers, the Possessed, the Plague Marines, and just concentrated on scoring our points. And we very much chose our engagements, because I think in turn 4 or 5 Mortarion did come in and he did wreck maybe a Redemptor Dreadnought, and he was probably ready to wreck something else, but it was too little too late, and we won this game by 23 points. So scared as I was of the Death Guard, I guess good secondary pickups put me in a solid position where I can choose how I want to fight the battle, and that's exactly what we did. So we're going to continue with this list for a few more weeks, hopefully, and we're going to do another game against another really strong Death Guard list. We are in a 4-game streak against just Death Guard as well, so we do sort of know how to pick against them, and I guess this is what I'd really advise, like, you know, assassinate even if they have a lot of characters, which I think we maybe killed 3 characters in this list, and, you know, grind them down as well. I feel like I just want to play a little bit safer and decide, you know, how and when I'm doing my engagements. So list 4 is the Iron Hands, where he took the Strayus super heavy tank, and you can see here in the first turn the Strayus is set up reasonably far back. I have tried to hide everything from it because its main cannon is pretty disgusting. I think it was strength 12, or no, strength 8, heavy 12, -3, 3 damage a shot or something, right? So this cannon, and it's near a Tech Marine, so he's hitting on 2s, he's Iron Hands, he's rerolling 1s. Very, very scary. So against Iron Hands, however, he did have 5 characters, a few Librarians, a Tech Marine, and a Dreadnought that had been upgraded to a character. So I figured I'm probably going to go after the characters, right? Like, if I can kill the super heavy tank, if it's in a good position, I will do that. But I don't want to have to go all in on the super heavy tank, especially if he plays this super defensively. In this list, he had 4 squads of infiltrators. So I figured, like, with good screening, it might be very difficult for me to get to the super heavy tank. So we're going to go after Assassinate. Again, I guess I was a little bit scared, so we picked Scramblers, something that I know that we can do, and it's easy and it's safe. Trying to get those safe 10 points, and then again, Oath of Moment, right? Like, we're going to kill some vehicles, we're going to kill some characters, we're going to not fail that many leadership tests, and I'm for sure we can have something in the middle of the board at some time. I think we actually held the middle of the board in this game for like 3 turns. I think there was Blade Guard Veterans, I think there was Assault Centurions, and I think in the final turn we just had like our Priest hanging out in the middle of the board. And then our Sanguinary Priest actually went and killed a squad of infiltrators by himself at the end of the game. So this game, you know, we actually scored really, really well. We kind of, I think we routed the Iron Hands in turn 4, like they had nothing left. So we scored maximum in primaries, we scored 40 out of 45 in secondaries, which was the maximum by taking Scramblers. Now maybe we could have done a few more points if we'd taken something different, but you know, again, picking the Scramblers frees up me to not waste too many of my units doing actions. And in this list that I'm running, we have a lot of elites and we only have 1 troop choice, so I don't have a lot of troops to do actions. So keeping the actions down, doing a lot of fighting, and then picking these secondaries around that is helping quite a lot. So then we come up against the World Eaters, and the World Eaters have to be respected for their close combat strength, and Brett on his World Eaters likes to run multiple squads of Berserkers. I think he had a 10-man squad, 2 6-man squads, and he also had Karn the Betrayer. Now all these units can fight multiple times, and they get to, if you do not have counter-offensive to interrupt them, they get to fight twice before you even get to go. And you really need to respect the power of those Berserkers, because if they get to fight twice, they can pay some CP and fight a 3rd time, and they'll wipe just about anything they end up in. 6 of them is bad enough, 10 of them is insane. So a few people in chat of that night actually wanted me to pick Domination and try and go after 3 objectives here, but I decided to just go after, I was going to try and just score 2, and I was going to try and make sure that I outrange a lot of the Berserkers, I kill a lot of them before they get in close combat with me, and then I move in and mop up. And Brett's list here was pretty interesting. You know, he had Raptors, he had a Leviathan Dreadnought, he had a Termite, he had a load of Berserkers, and he had some of those War Stalkers with the harpoons that slow your movement. So it is a pretty interesting list. And what I was thinking was, it was on the priority objectives map, and priority objectives, there is one there, the mission specific one called priority target, and you pick one objective, you make it your priority target, and if you hold it you get 3 every turn, and if you hold your priority and the enemy you get 5. And it's almost like an auto pick. You have to pick it because you can, in this case the Whirlwind's going to sit on that objective for probably or mostly the whole game, and we're going to get close to maximum points. I think in this game it actually turned out that I held his one as well for a turn, so we easily scored over maximum. We also took Scramblers again, and I feel like you know, we've said this a few times about the Scramblers, but I was respecting the Berserkers, and I want to choose when I fight them, so I don't want to be having to kill them unless I'm sure that I can kill them. So Scramblers is kind of like a pick where I'm being a little bit cautious. And then Relentless Assault, well, we know Relentless Assault is about getting a unit in his deployment zone. Khorne are going to run straight at you. That's how that army works. That's how that army is strong. So I don't expect him to have anything or very little in his deployment zone. And in this case, Brett actually runs 10 Chaos Cultists, and those cultists are they're the likely holders of objectives in his deployment zone. And I have a Whirlwind, so in turn 1, when all of his Berserkers are in the Rhino, I think the Whirlwind actually killed like 8 cultists or something, and you had to pay CP to stop them from... You had to pay CP for the Insane Bravery, I think, and then the Vanguard Veterans jumped down and hurt him very quickly as well. So the Vanguard Veterans gave me that Relentless Assault points. I'd screened my deployment zone pretty well. There is a sort of a daisy-chained squad of infiltrators there to prevent that termite drill that he had coming in. And yeah, so I felt like we'll hold our priority target safely enough, we'll get into his deployment zone, and remember, if you need another unit into his deployment zone, you can always use Upon Wings of Fire if suddenly a couple of units appear in your deployment zone. And then again, we did the Scramblers to be safe. And I think in this game, the Berserkers, out of the 3 squads, there was only 1 squad that made the charge. The squad that made the charge absolutely annihilated what they charged into, but we managed to get the jump on the other 2 squads, and that was very important. And again, we won this game by quite a lot of points, 26, and our secondary score, 39 out of 45, was very solid. So moving straight on to the Tyranids game, and this was a list that I hadn't really seen before at all, and it was a list that contained a lot of large Tyranid monsters. Dimaricons, basically like a Hive Tyrant, and a bunch of other close combat things. You'll be able to get the list if you go over onto the Plastic Crackheads channel, because this was actually on the channel that Andrew and Colin are mainly running, and I am playing on that channel against them now and then. And so we played again, and we took Bring It Down. And Bring It Down, there was actually potentially 15 points available for Bring It Down because he had so many large monsters. But we only scored 10. But again, that was kind of okay, I guess. Like, I don't want to say that we're castling too much, but we're definitely castled in like turn 1 as we move forward. And then what my strategy has been really to raise the Psychic Fortress, have a lot of units around my Sanguinary Priest, and then move out from there. So my thought was we're going to castle a little bit at the start of the game. We're going to let some of the big Tyranid monsters come to us. We're going to try and shoot them down. And, we actually did that quite effectively. So we got a nice 10 points from Bring It Down. I think this is the 4th game in the row we just picked Scramblers. I often talk about if you can hold 2 objectives, primaries, for the whole game, then essentially that gives you 40 points. So if you can score 30 points from secondary at that point, then you're already at 70. If you're at 70 points, I think if we look back in these games, I think 70 points actually wins a lot of games, or is very close. So I think sometimes it's better to just pick the Scramblers and just go for those safe 10 points, and then maybe double down on some of the other ones. Like, I knew Bring It Down was going to be hard in this game, but I didn't have too many other options. And then I guess, the Relentless Assault, he wasn't really going to be doing too much screening. He had a lot of large Tyranid models that do a lot of damage in melee that he needed to get into combat. So Relentless Assault was sort of an easy pick here. He actually threw like Ripper Swarms into my deployment zone on 2 different turns to try and stop my Relentless Assault, but I had enough units in the backfield to just deal with them. I was able to use the Whirlwind one time, I think, and that was another 20-point victory against the Tyranids over on the Plastic Crackheads channel. And then the last game we played on this channel was the game against the Eldar, or the Eldari, just this Monday past. And for that game, my thought was engage on all fronts. It was a very fast Eldar list with a lot of tanks and artillery, and I figured I need to get in and fight those tanks quickly and that's exactly what we did. So engaging on all fronts gave us like 11 points fairly easily. Raise the Banners, I picked this as sort of like a bit of a greedier pick, right? Like I was actually 50-50 on where I take Scramblers in this game, but we took Banners because I haven't taken Banners in a while and I wanted to see really how this list does. And although I scored 13 points, I actually think that I had to do 5 actions, and I think like one of the actions was done with my captain, one of the actions was done with like Centurions, one of the actions was done with my librarian. So I don't have enough troops in this list that I'm running to really do too many actions. And part of the reason I scored 13 was because I actually wiped Eldar off the table in turn 4. So I actually think against a more difficult list or a more optimized Eldar list, I might have actually scored less than the sort of 10 solid ones that I usually get from Scramblers here. So Scramblers might fit my list easier or better as well, because I just have that one squad of infiltrators that can use guerrilla tactics and can bounce around the map and do the Scramblers. So Raise the Banners did give me 13, but if you are only going to run one troop choice, I do have a question mark around that. And then Oath of Moment for 14. You know, we were able to hold the middle again. The Blade Guard veterans using Transhuman on them, the Centurions, you know, being around that Psychic Fortress, being around that Feel No Pain from the Sanguinary Priest, held the middle very strongly. We got 14 points for Oath of Moment. So 40 out of 45 for secondaries here, and a very solid win, like a 47 point victory win up against the Eldari, but it wasn't really the most optimized list. So I hope that gives you some idea why I'm picking some of the secondaries that I do pick. And there is a bunch of secondaries that I didn't include. You know, Blade of Sanguinius, Fury of the Lost, Death from Above, all 3 Blood Angels, all 3 can be decent. I wouldn't say they're the strongest, and I haven't actually ever picked any of them. I've thought about Blade of Sanguinius a couple of times, and I've had some people on the channel say Blade of Sanguinius has been good for them, but I haven't picked it yet. In Space Marines we have Shock Tactics and Codex Warfare. Shock Tactics is the one where you push enemies off an objective and then you get the points, and Codex Warfare is the one where you kill them with the different doctrines. Codex Warfare I don't rate at all. Shock Tactics I think is difficult unless you're confident that every turn you're flipping objectives, which to me just doesn't seem like a reliable way of scoring points. So I don't rate either of those. And then Domination, Thin their ranks, Grind them down, While we stand we fight, Titan Hunter, Cut off the head, Investigate sites, Abhor the Witch, Mental Interrogation, Psychic Ritual, and Pierce the Veil are the other ones from the main rule set that I haven't been doing recently. And Domination doesn't fit my playstyle, I think. I like to play defensively for a few turns, wait till the battlefield opens up, and then go after strategic points. So Domination doesn't work so well. Thin the Ranks is an interesting one, and we are playing Necrons next week, so we may take Thin the Ranks. You know, like if we see 80 Necron warriors on the board, we're probably going to take Thin the Ranks. Grind them down can be good as well against an army with a lot of different units. I haven't had an opportunity to fight too much against those armies, so right now it's not something I'm considering. And then While we stand we fight, I think because of the changes to While we stand we fight, I think 2 of my While we stand we fight units are my Redemptor Dreadnoughts, and those things are big and they get targeted a lot, and them being targeted a lot actually frees up a lot of space on the table for my other units. So I guess like I don't think I could pick While we stand we fight right now. Not with this list anyway. Titan Hunter is obviously situational if there is a Titan. Again, I don't think I've ever picked it. We did come up against this super heavy tank and it is the Titan, and you know, we went for other options. I just think it's very much all your eggs in one basket, right? Cut off the head. I don't really know anyone that picks this considering or reliably, you know, kill the warlord, and the earlier you kill them in the game, because I think if you pick cut off the head, then they just hide your warlord from you, or they even, you know, they just make it generally difficult to do. So I don't like it either. Investigate sites I'm actually okay with. I think on some maps, you know, if we're holding the middle with Oath of Moment, then I think Investigate Sites makes a lot of sense. If the enemy aren't going to contest the middle, then Investigate Sites is fine, but I don't pick it too often. And then for the last 4, the Psychic ones, for one, I always have a Psyker, so we can't take aboard the Witch. And the other 3 about like casting Psychic powers, this might be fine if you have multiple Psykers. I usually just have one, and as such, I don't like my potentially my objective scoring to be denied by a psychic roll. So I think all three are maybe questionable unless you have multiple psychers. And that's sort of where I stand on secondaries right now. So sorry if there's a few mistakes or a few bits where I got tongue-tied in the video. I didn't have a whole heap of time this week because we did put out that competitive list earlier, but I did still want to, we haven't missed a Friday yet for the Friday Tactics video, so I really wanted to put this out, and I tried to do it in just a few takes because I didn't have a lot of time, a lot going on this week. So I really hope you enjoyed the video. I really hope you learned something. As during live shows on Monday nights, I try and give some indication of why I'm picking stuff, and we try and talk a little bit about the various tactics that we're doing, and then at the end of the shows we always have a breakdown of some of the things we did, some of the things that were strong or weak, and we're trying to share some knowledge and trying to generally make people better at Blood Angels. So thanks so much for watching. If you want to support the channel, you can find some links down below, including our newly open Patreon. And we will be back for sure on Sunday with our live battles. No, our live Codex show, and then on Monday night with our live battle show. And yeah, it means a lot, all the continued support. And yeah, I think this Sunday we'll do the giveaway for members. We are giving away some Space Marine bikes. And then I think after we've given away the bikes to members, we'll open up another giveaway, and we're going to do a giveaway for everybody to win some. Again, it's going to be bikes, so you can build Chapter Masters on bikes. I haven't said Chapter Master on a bike, I think, in the whole video, and if you do watch all my videos, then you'll know that because I said Chapter Master on the bike, it's time to take a shot, and let's move on. I hope you really enjoyed the video. If you did, please hit that like button. Thanks for hanging out and making this an awesome community. I'm very excited to have 5,000 subscribers, and I hope to continue to deliver good content in the future. Hope to see you all in the next video, brothers. By the blood are we made. Peace.